You are sitting in a room where the stakes are impossibly high. It might be a negotiation for your career, or a conversation that could end a relationship. The person across from you is smiling. Their words are polished and perfectly rehearsed. They tell you exactly what you want to hear. But something primal in your gut tightens. You sense a threat, but you cannot name it. This is not a mystical feeling. It is your brain processing a flood of data that your conscious mind has not yet learned to read. You are looking at a mask. To the untrained eye, it looks like a face, but to you, it is about to become transparent. Freeze the frame in your mind. Look at that smile again. The mouth curves upward, but the skin around the eyes remains smooth and unmoving. It is a biological forgery. A genuine smile engages the involuntary muscles around the eyes, but a fake smile is purely manual labor. Now, look at their posture. They are leaning in with apparent interest, but check the floor. Their feet are pointed strictly toward the door. Their conscious mind is trying to deceive you, but their limbic system is desperately trying to flee the room. Listen to the pitch of their voice. It dropped half an octave. When you asked about the timeline, that is not an accident. That is a constriction of the vocal cords caused by sudden biological stress. They are terrified you will see the truth. Most people sleepwalk through these interactions. They are victims of the performance. But you are about to wake up. This is the invisible script. It is the hidden narrative running underneath every conversation you have ever had. Until now, you have only been listening to the dialogue. You have been blind to the subtext that screams the truth. We are going to change the way you perceive reality. We are going to turn down the volume on their words and turn up the clarity on their behavior. You are about to learn the 7 psychological keys that unlock the human mind. Once you see the invisible script, you can never unsee it. You are no longer a passive listener. You are an analyst, the compass of the subconscious. You have now acknowledged the existence of the invisible script that governs human interaction. You understand that words are merely the surface layer of communication. They are the carefully curated exhibits in a museum. But to understand the history of the artifact, you must look at what is hidden in the archives. You must look at the body. The human body is a broadcasting station that never goes off the air. While the conscious mind is busy constructing sentences and fabricating excuses, the subconscious mind is signaling its true intent through physical behavior. We call this segment the compass of the subconscious. Because unlike spoken language, which can be twisted and manipulated with relative ease, the body has a tendency to point toward the truth. It points toward what the person actually wants and how they actually feel. Most people make a fatal error when trying to read someone. They focus entirely on the face. This is a mistake. From the moment we are children, we are taught to control our facial expressions. We are told to smile at the ant we dislike. We are told to look interested in boring classes. We develop a social mask that is incredibly sophisticated. The face is the most guarded part of the human vessel. If you want to see the truth, you must look where the person is least likely to exercise control. You must look at the feet. The feet are the furthest point from the brain. In the hierarchy of body language control, they are the most neglected, because we do not see our own feet. During a conversation, we often forget they exist. This makes them the most honest acting members of the body. They act as the literal needle of the compass. Imagine you are standing in a circle of colleagues at a networking event. Everyone is smiling. Everyone is nodding. But look down. If you see a person whose torso is turned toward you, but their feet are pointed toward the exit, That person has already left the conversation. Their mind has disengaged. The limbic system, which governs our fight or flight response, has prepared the body to move away from the source of boredom or discomfort. The feet betray the desire to escape. This applies to attraction and interest as well. When two people are deeply engaged, their feet will point directly at one another. It is a subconscious blocking maneuver that creates a private space. If you approach two people talking and they turn their heads to welcome you, but their feet remain fixed in place, they do not want you in that conversation. They are merely being polite. If they open their stance and move their feet to create space, they are genuinely welcoming you in. Moving up from the foundation, we encounter the torso. The torso contains our vital organs. It is the most vulnerable part of us. In the wild, exposing the torso is an act of extreme trust or extreme aggression. In a boardroom or a coffee shop, the principle remains the same. When someone is comfortable, they leave their torso open. When they feel threatened or defensive, they engage in blocking behaviors. You have seen this 1,000 times. A difficult question is asked, and suddenly the person crosses their arms. This is not just a comfortable resting position. It is a shield. They are placing a physical barrier between themselves and the source of their discomfort. If they are holding a drink, they might move the glass in front of their chest. If they are holding a notebook, they will clutch it like armor. These are barriers. They signal that the mind has gone on the defensive. But the body does not just block. It also leaks. This brings us to the hands. The hands are the vocal cords of the body. When the mind is anxious, it seeks comfort. We call these behaviors pacifiers. When a person is under stress, the brain demands tactile reassurance. You will see a man adjust his tie or touch his neck. You will see a woman play with a necklace or brush hair behind her ear. These are not random movements. Touching the neck is particularly significant. The neck is rich in nerve endings. That lower heart rate. When massaged, when a person feels insecure or caught in a lie, they will often touch the suprasternal notch, the hollow at the base of the throat. It is a subconscious attempt to soothe the nervous system. If you see a sudden increase in these pacifying behaviors, it is a red flag. The internal pressure has risen, and the body is trying to regulate it. Now we must approach the most complex terrain. The face. While I warned you that the face is a mask, it is not a perfect one. The mask slips. These slips are known as microexpressions. These are involuntary facial flashes that last less than a quarter of a second. They occur before the conscious mind has time to arrange the features into a socially acceptable expression. Imagine you deliver bad news to a competitor. For a fraction of a second, you might see the corners of their mouth turn up, a flash of joy. Then instantly, their face settles into a mask of solemn concern. That flash was the truth. The solemnity is the lie. The most common microexpression to look for is the difference between a real smile and a fake one. A fake smile is limited to the mouth. It is a mechanical lifting of the zygomatic major muscle. It does not reach the eyes. A genuine smile, known as a Duchenne smile, engages the orbicularis oculi muscles around the eyes. The skin crinkles, the eyebrows dip slightly. If the mouth is smiling, but the eyes are cold and still, the emotion is manufactured. Speaking of eyes, they are often called the windows to the soul. But in dark psychology, we view them as the shutters of the mind. We are often told that liars cannot maintain eye contact. This is a myth. A skilled liar knows this myth and will overcompensate. They will hold your gaze for too long. It feels unnatural. It feels predatory. They are checking to see if you believe them, instead of looking for eye contact avoidance. Look for eye blocking. When we see something we do not like, our natural instinct is to close our eyes. In a conversation, this manifests as long blinks or rubbing the eyes. It is the brain trying to wipe away the unpleasant visual or auditory input. If you ask a question and the person closes their eyes for a moment longer than a normal blink before answering, they are pausing to process a threat. They are blocking you out to formulate a defense. Finally, we must listen to the music of the voice, not the words, but the tone, the pitch, the cadence. The voice is produced by physical vibrations, and those vibrations are affected by tension. When a person is stressed, the vocal cords tighten. This often causes the pitch to rise. If a person who normally speaks in a baritone suddenly answers a question in a tenor range, the stress levels have spiked. Listen also for the speed. A sudden acceleration in speech often indicates anxiety or a desire to get the lie over with. A sudden deceleration or frequent pausing indicates a high cognitive load. Lying takes effort. The brain has to construct a reality that does not exist while suppressing the truth. This creates lag. If there is a rhythmic break in the conversation, a silence that feels slightly too heavy, the person is likely drafting a script in their head. To master the compass of the subconscious, you must stop listening to the story being told and start observing the storyteller. You must detach yourself from the emotional content of their words and become a cold observer of their mechanics. Watch the feet to see where they want to go. Watch the torso to see if they are open or shielded. Watch the hands to see if they are soothing a panicked nervous system. Watch the eyes to see if they are blocking you out, and listen to the tone to hear the tension in the wires. When you align all these signals, you will find that people are constantly telling you the truth. They simply aren't doing it with words. They are screaming their intentions with every shift of their posture and every twitch of their muscle fibers. The ability to read these signals gives you an unfair advantage. It allows you to navigate the social world with a map that others cannot see. You will know who is loyal and who is looking for the door. You will know who is confident and who is terrified. You will no longer be a participant in the invisible script. You will be the director. However, understanding the body is only the foundation. To truly influence the mind, you must understand how to bypass the critical factor and plant ideas directly into the subconscious. This requires a deeper understanding of language patterns and suggestion. If you wish to continue this study into the architecture of the human mind and ensure you do not miss the next chapter on psychological influence, make sure you subscribe to the channel now. By joining us, you secure your place among the few who choose to see the world as it truly is, the shutter of the soul. We leave the ground now. We leave the honest anchors of the feet and travel upward to the most deceptive stage in human existence, the human face. If the feet are the compass of the subconscious, then the face is its billboard, but it is a billboard that is constantly being repainted over and over again in real time. To read anyone instantly, you must learn to look past the fresh paint and spot the cracks in the plaster. You must learn to watch the shutter of the soul. The eyes have long been described by poets as windows. In the cold light of psychological analysis, they are less like windows and more like an aperture on a camera. They regulate light, but they also regulate truth. The pupil of the eye is perhaps the most honest signal the human body possesses. Because it is physically impossible to control consciously, you can fake a smile, you can force a laugh, you can hold your hands still, but you cannot command your pupils to contract or dilate. This is your first point of focus. Biology dictates that when we look at something we like, or something that stimulates us, the pupils expand. They open wide to take in more of the visual data. When we see something that threatens or disgusts us, they constrict, they sharpen the focus to prepare for a threat. If you are in a negotiation and you slide a number across the table, do not watch the person's mouth. Watch the black centers of their eyes. A sudden dilation is a silent shout of agreement or desire, regardless of the hesitation in their voice. However, the eyes offer more than just size. They offer movement. There is a concept known as blocking behavior. When the human brain encounters something it does not like, it tries to physically block it out. In a child, this is obvious. They cover their eyes with their hands. As we age, social conditioning teaches us that covering our eyes is unacceptable. So, the behavior evolves. It becomes subtle. It becomes the shudder. This manifests as a long blink. A normal blink is a fraction of a second. A blocking blink lasts a second or two. It is the brain momentarily checking out of the conversation. It happens when someone hears a truth they dislike or sees a person they despise. It is a moment of temporary blindness induced by the subconscious to protect the mind from an unpleasant reality. You will see this often in high-stakes interviews. The subject is asked a difficult question. Before they answer, they close their eyes for a long, deliberate pause. That is the shutter closing. Beyond the eyelids, we must look at the direction of the gaze. There is a persistent myth that a liar cannot look you in the eye. Experienced manipulators know this myth well. Therefore, they compensate. They do not look away. They stare. They lock eyes with you for too long. They are checking to see if you are buying their lie. Normal eye contact breaks comfortably every few seconds. It wanders and returns. It is fluid. Frozen eye contact is a sign of high cognitive load and a desperate attempt to control the perception of the listener. Now we must descend slightly to the rest of the face. This brings us to the phenomenon of micro-expressions. These are the ghosts in the machine. A micro-expression is a flash of raw emotion that crosses the face. For less than half a second before the conscious mind can catch it and cover it up, it is a leakage of the truth. Imagine a colleague who hears that you received the promotion they wanted. For 1/25th of a second, their lips might curl upward and their nose might wrinkle in a sneer of disgust. In the very next moment, a smile plasters over it, and they offer their congratulations. Most people only see the smile. To read anyone instantly, you must train yourself to see the sneer that came before it. You are looking for inconsistency. You are looking for the emotional glitch. The most common mask used to cover these glitches is the smile. But not all smiles are created equal. You must learn to distinguish the social smile from the true smile, which is scientifically known as the Duchenne smile. A social smile stops at the mouth. The zygomatic major muscle pulls the corners of the lips up, but the rest of the face remains dead. It is a mask. A true smile engages the orbicularis oculi muscle, which surrounds the eye. When a person is genuinely happy or amused, the skin around their eyes crinkles. The eyebrows might dip slightly. If the mouth is smiling, but the eyes are cold and smooth, you are looking at a fabrication. We must weave this visual data together with the auditory. We must listen to the tone. The voice is a wind instrument pushed by the breath, and the breath is controlled by the nervous system. When a person is stressed, their throat tightens, the vocal cords stretch, the pitch rises. This is often imperceptible to the conscious ear, but the subconscious picks it up. Listen for the crack. When a person is lying or hiding, deep emotion, their voice, often falters for a microsecond. They might clear their throat before speaking. This is not just to clear mucus. It is a physical reset button for the vocal cords. Because the muscles have tightened up due to stress, pay close attention to the cadence. Truth usually flows. It has a rhythm that matches the person's breathing. Deception requires calculation. When someone is constructing a lie, they are building a bridge in front of them as they walk. This cognitive load slows them down. You will hear pauses that do not fit the natural rhythm of speech. You will hear fillers. Sounds like or are the brain buffering while it renders. The next part of the fabrication. There is also the question of inflection. In many English-speaking cultures, a statement of fact should have a downward inflection. At the end, I was at the store. The pitch goes down. It is final. It is solid. However, when a person is uncertain or seeking validation, they often use an upward inflection. I was at the store. It sounds like a question. They are not telling you where they were. They are asking you if you believe their story. This is a subtle plea for approval and a hallmark of deception. Now, we must reintegrate the lesson of the compass. You are watching the shudder of the eyes. You are listening to the music of the tone. But do not forget the feet. The face is capable of immense complexity and deceit. The feet are simple beasts of burden. Let us construct a scenario. You are speaking to a business partner. You ask them if they are happy with the current deal terms. They look you in the eye with a frozen stare. They smile, but the skin around their eyes remains smooth and unwrinkled. They say yes, absolutely, and their pitch rises slightly at the end of the sentence. Separately, these are just data points. Together, they are a constellation of deceit. But then, you glance down. Their torso is facing you, but their feet are pointed toward the door. This is the final confirmation. The face is performing a script of agreement, but the feet are signaling a desire to escape. The body is in conflict with itself. When you see a disconnect between the spoken word and the physical action, always trust the physical. Words are cheap. Words are air. The body is biological reality. It reacts to adrenaline and cortisol and dopamine. It requires immense energy to suppress these reactions. One of the most potent places to look for this suppression is in the hands and the neck. When the brain detects stress, it demands to be soothed. This leads to pacifying behaviors. A man might loosen his collar or rub the back of his neck. This is not an itch. The vagus nerve runs through the neck and stimulating it lowers the heart rate. He is physically trying to calm his nervous system down because the lie he is telling or the secret he is keeping has sent his body into fight or flight mode. A woman might touch the suprasternal notch, which is the hollow at the base of the throat. This is a highly sensitive area. Protecting it is an instinctual defensive maneuver. Covering it with a hand is a sign that she feels vulnerable or threatened by the topic at hand. Watch for the lint picker. This occurs when a person looks down and begins picking imaginary lint off their clothing. They are avoiding eye contact and they are performing a grooming gesture that seems trivial but serves to dismiss the conversation. They are signaling that the microscopic dust on their trousers is more important than your words. It is a gesture of dismissal and discomfort. To master. The art of the shutter. You must become a predator of detail. You must stop listening to the story. People tell you and start watching the way they tell it. You must become comfortable with silence. Silence is a vacuum, and most people are terrified of it. If you ask a question and get a rehearsed answer, do not respond immediately. Wait. Look at them. In that silence, the shutter will flutter. They will blink more rapidly. They will shift their weight. Their feet will turn. They will feel the need to fill the silence with more words. And usually those extra words contain the truth they were trying to hide. The face is a stage, and the person you are speaking to is the actor. They have rehearsed their lines. They have practiced their smile, but they cannot control the lighting, and they cannot control the scenery. The dilation of the pupil, the direction of the foot, the crack in the voice. These are the backstage mechanics that reveal. The play is a fiction. By observing the shudder of the soul, you are stepping behind the curtain. You are no longer an audience member. You are the director. You see the performance for what it is. And once you can see the strings, you can no longer be played by them. The ghost in the smile. The human face is a landscape of deception. We are taught from a very young age to curate our expressions and to paint over our internal reality with a socially acceptable veneer. We smile when we are polite. We smile when we are nervous. We smile when we are terrified. Most of all, we smile when we are lying. Of all the masks available in the human arsenal, the smile is the most readily available and the most frequently deployed. It is the velvet curtain we pull across the stage of our true intentions. But biology is a strict taskmaster, and it does not allow for a perfect disguise. There is always a ghost in the machine. There is always a fleeting remnant of the truth that haunts even the most polished performance. To read. Anyone instantly, you must learn to ignore. The brightness of the teeth and the curvature of the lips. You must learn to hunt for the ghost. In the smile, this pursuit begins with an understanding of anatomy that borders on the mechanical. A genuine smile is an involuntary symphony of two specific muscle groups. The first is the zygomatic major, which resides in the cheek and hooks into the corners of the mouth. When you contract this muscle, the corners of your lips are pulled upward. This is the part of the smile that is entirely under your conscious control. You can stand in front of a mirror right now and command your mouth to curve upward, and it will obey. This is the socially lubricated smile. It is the smile of the salesperson who hates their job, or the politician who despises their constituents. It is a voluntary act of will. The second muscle group is the orbicularis oculi. These are the sphincter muscles that encircle the eye sockets when genuine happiness or amusement floods. The brain. The limbic system fires, a signal that contracts these muscles. This action pulls the skin from the cheeks and forehead toward the eyeball, causing the eyes to narrow and creating distinctive crow's feet at the corners. Crucially, this muscle is incredibly difficult to control consciously. Most people cannot contract the outer portion of the orbicularis oculi on command. It is the physiological hallmark of sincerity. When you observe a person smiling, you are looking for the discrepancy between these two muscles. A fake smile stops at the upper lip. The mouth may be stretched wide, the teeth may be gleaming, but the eyes remain dead. They are wide open and unmoving. The skin around them is smooth and taut. This is often called the pan-am smile, named after the flight attendants of a bygone era who were required to maintain a permanent grin, regardless of their exhaustion. When you see a mouth that says joy but eyes that say nothing. You are witnessing a disconnect between the conscious mind and the subconscious reality. The person is projecting an image that their internal emotional state does not support. This is your first red flag. The ghost is the absence of the crinkle. It is the stillness in the upper face, while the lower face performs a pantomime of delight. However, the analysis of the ghost in the smile goes deeper than just the eyes. You must look for the micro-expression that precedes the mask. A micro-expression is a fleeting involuntary facial expression that occurs as a reaction to an emotion. They last for a fraction of a second, often as short as 1/25th of a second, before the conscious mind can step in and command the zygomatic major to lift the lips into a smile. The true emotion flashes across the face. Imagine you are in a negotiation. You make an offer that you know is low. The person across from you smiles and says, "That is an interesting starting point," but for a split second. Before that smile appeared, you saw a flash of disgust. Their nose wrinkled slightly, their upper lip curled upward just a millimeter. Then, the mask slammed down, and the polite smile took its place. That split second of disgust is the ghost. That is the truth. The smile that followed is the lie. Detecting these ghosts requires you to soften your gaze. If you focus too hard on the words being spoken, you will miss the visual data. You have to watch the face as a whole. You are looking for a glitch in the matrix. You are looking for a momentary grimace of anger or a flash of fear that is instantly paved over by a pleasant expression. Timing is another critical factor in identifying the ghost. Genuine emotions have a natural onset and offset. A real smile takes a moment to spread across the face, and it fades away gradually. A fake smile operates like a light switch. It turns on abruptly, and it disappears. The moment, the social utility of the smile has expired. Have you ever watched someone smile for a photo and then drop the expression? The second the shutter clicks, the face goes from joy to neutrality. In an instant, that is a manufactured expression. In a social interaction, if someone smiles at your joke, but the smile vanishes too quickly or snaps off the face instantly, it indicates that the amusement was feigned. Conversely, a fake smile might stay on the face too long. It is as if the person has forgotten to turn it off. They hold the expression to convince you of their engagement, but because it is not fueled by genuine chemical release. In the brain, they lose track of the natural rhythm. A smile that lingers for seconds on end while the eyes dart around the room is a sign of deep discomfort or deception. They are hiding behind the teeth. Asymmetry is your next diagnostic tool. The brain hemispheres control opposite sides of the body. The right hemisphere, which is more involved in emotional processing, controls the left side of the face. Therefore, genuine bursts of emotion often appear more intensely on the left side of the face, first or more strongly. However, when a smile is forced and driven by the motor cortex, rather than the emotional centers, it often results in a strange asymmetry. Watch for a smile that pulls harder on one side. A smirk is the cousin of the fake smile. It usually indicates contempt or superiority. If one corner of the mouth rises while the other remains flat, or the smile looks lopsided without a medical reason, you are seeing the leakage of arrogance. The person feels they are smarter than you, or they are deceiving you and enjoying it. This is often called duping delight. It is the subconscious pleasure a liar feels when they believe their manipulation is succeeding. The ghost. In this smile is a ghost of mockery. You must also contextualize the smile with the rest of the body. We previously discussed the compass of the feet. This is where the holistic picture comes into focus. A person who is genuinely happy to see you will align their entire being toward you. Their eyes will crinkle. Their mouth will curve. Their torso will face you, and their feet will point at you. Now imagine a scenario where the person is smiling broadly at you. Their verbal tone is friendly, but their feet are pointed toward the exit. This is a massive incongruence. The face is lying, but the feet are telling the truth. They want to leave. The smile is a barrier. It is a tool used to placate you, while their primitive brain plots an escape. The ghost. Here is the desire to flee. Similarly, watch the hands. A genuine smile is open. It is vulnerable. If someone is smiling, but their arms are crossed tightly over their chest, or their hands are clenched into fists, or gripping the arms of the chair, you are seeing a defensive posture masked by a friendly face. The tension in the body betrays the relaxation of the face. The body cannot lie as well as the face can. The face is the diplomat, but the body is the savage. When the diplomat smiles, while the savage prepares for war, trust the savage. Tone of voice serves as the final auditor of the smile. A genuine smile changes the shape of the mouth and the throat, which actually alters the pitch and resonance of the voice. You can hear a smile over the phone. If someone is smiling genuinely, their voice tends to be higher and more fluid. If the smile is fake, the voice remains flat or monotone. Listen for the discordance between the visual and the auditory. If you see a wide grin but hear a flat, cold, robotic tone, you are in the presence of a predator or a deeply calculated individual. This is a common trait in dark psychology known as flat affect. The person mimics the facial movements of empathy or joy because they know it is expected, but they cannot infuse their voice with the warmth they do not feel. The ghost. In the smile is not a single clue, but a collection of small betrayals. It is the lack of crinkles around the eyes. It is the flash of contempt that appears for a millisecond. It is the mechanical timing of the lips. It is the frozen feet pointing away. It is the flat voice issuing from a happy mouth. When you start to see these ghosts, you realize how little genuine connection exists in many standard interactions. You begin to see the social world as a masquerade. But this is not cause for cynicism. It is a source of power. When you see the ghost, you see the hidden intent. You know when a salesperson is desperate. You know when a partner is hiding resentment. You know when an adversary is masking fear. Once you spot the fake smile, you do not need to call it out. You simply adjust your strategy. You know that the person before you is wearing a mask, and because you can see the ghost behind it, you know exactly who is really home. You have bypassed the invisible script. They tried to hand you. You are no longer reacting to the performance. You are engaging with the reality. This ability to discern the true from the false is the bedrock of reading anyone instantly. But the face is only one part of the puzzle. To truly understand the mind of another, we must look at how they handle silence and how they occupy space. We must descend further into the physiological signals that no amount of training can suppress. We must turn our attention to the hands and the nervous energy that leaks out. When the pressure rises, this leads us to the next layer of observation, the mirror and the void. We have navigated the subtle landscapes of the smile and examined the involuntary shutters of the eyes. Now we move from observation to interaction. Reading. People is not a passive sport. It is not like watching a film where the actors are unaware of your presence. It is a dance. It is a chemical exchange. To truly read, someone instantly, you must become an active participant in their psychological reality. You must become a surface that reflects them and a chasm that consumes them. This brings us to the most potent dynamic. In dark psychology, which utilizes the twin concepts of the mirror and the void, imagine you are standing before a calm body of water. When you look down, you see yourself. This is the mirror. Now imagine dropping a heavy stone into that water. It sinks into the darkness. That is the void. These are not abstract metaphors. They are tactical maneuvers you can use to dismantle a person's defenses and uncover the truth hiding beneath their socially constructed mask. Let us begin with the mirror. The human brain is wired for connection. We are social animals who survived the harshness of history by forming tribes. Because of this, our nervous systems are constantly scanning for compatibility. We look for people who are like us. When we find them, our biological defenses drop. This is where the technique of mirroring comes into play. It is often called the chameleon effect. Most people think mirroring is simply copying someone else. They think it means crossing your arms when the other person crosses theirs. But that is a crude imitation. True mirroring is a subtle alignment of energy and posture. It is a way to tell the other person's subconscious mind that you are safe, you are familiar, you are the same. When you are speaking with someone, observe their baseline state. If they lean forward, you wait a beat and then lean forward. If they speak slowly with long pauses, you slow your own cadence to match theirs. This creates a feedback loop. You are essentially hacking their limbic system. You are inducing a state of comfort. But here is the dark psychology twist. You do not mirror them just to make friends. You mirror them to establish a baseline of compliance. Once you have synchronized your movements with theirs, you test the connection. You change your posture intentionally. If you have been leaning in, sit back. If you have been speaking softly, raise your volume slightly. Watch what they do. If they follow your lead and adjust their body to match yours, then you have them. You have established a psychological lead. They are unconsciously seeking to maintain the connection. But if they do not follow you, if they remain rigid or disconnected, then you know there is resistance. You know they are guarding something. This leads us to the most honest part of the human body. It is not the eyes, and it is certainly not the mouth. It is the feet. We are taught from childhood to control our faces. We learn to smile when we are disappointed. We learn to nod when we are bored. We spend a lifetime curating the expressions we wear on our heads. But nobody tells a child to watch their feet. Because of this, the legs and feet remain the most unfiltered channel of our fight or flight response. When you are in the mirror, phase engaging with someone, look down, not obviously, but with a glancing sweep. If a person is truly engaged with you, their feet will point directly at you. It is a primitive signal that says, I am here and I am staying. However, if their torso is turned toward you and they are smiling and nodding, but their feet are pointing toward the exit, you are seeing a contradiction. The mind wants to leave. The body is preparing to flee. This is often the first sign of deception or extreme discomfort. They are socially obligated to stay, but their survival instinct is already halfway out the door. Pay close attention to the lead foot. In a standing conversation, often one foot will point at the person they value most in the circle. If you are interrogating a subject or negotiating a deal, and their feet point away from you, they are closed off, no matter how much they smile. The feet tell you that the connection is severed. Once you have read the feet and tested the connection with the mirror, It is time to deploy the void. If the mirror is about building comfort, the void is about inducing pressure. It relies on a fundamental flaw in the human psyche, which is our intolerance for silence. Nature abhors a vacuum. Human beings abhor silence. In conversation, silence feels like judgment. It feels like a gap that must be bridged. When we are silent, we feel exposed. The brain interprets a lack of feedback as a signal of social rejection. To avoid this pain, people will talk. They will fill the silence with words. And often, those words contain the truth they were trying to hide. Here is how you use the void. You ask a probing question. You ask something that requires them to think, or perhaps something that touches on a sensitive subject. They give you an answer. It might be a rehearsed answer. It might be a lie. Instead of responding, you do nothing. You do not nod. You do not say okay. You do not look away. You simply maintain eye contact and remain completely silent. You keep your face neutral. You become a void. Count to 4 in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4. For the person across from you. Those 4 seconds will feel like an eternity. Their anxiety will spike. They will wonder why you are not accepting their answer. They will assume you know they are lying. They will assume their answer was insufficient. To relieve this pressure, they will start talking again. They will add details. They will explain themselves. They will overcompensate. This is where the lie falls apart. Truth is simple and requires no defense. Lies are complex and require constant maintenance. By using the void, you force them to maintain the structure of the lie without your help, and usually it collapses under its own weight. During this silence, you must listen, not just to the words, but to the music of their voice. You must analyze the tone. When a person is stressed, their vocal cords tighten. It is a physical reaction to the adrenaline flooding their system. This tension changes. The pitch of their voice, it might go higher. It might become strained. You might hear a crack or a wobble. Listen for the speed. When someone fills the void, do they speak faster? Acceleration is a sign of panic. They are trying to bury you in information, so you stop looking at them. Listen for the drop in volume. Sometimes when a person lies, they subconsciously lower their voice, as if they do not want the words to travel too far. They mutter. They swallow the ends of their sentences. Also observe the structure of their eye contact during the void. We previously discussed the shudder of the soul. But here we look at the intent of the gaze. A liar who is subjected to the void will often hold eye contact for too long. They are overcompensating. They think that if they look away, it will prove they are lying. So they stare at you. It becomes an aggressive, unnatural gaze. They are not looking at you. They are checking to see if you are buying their story. It is a check for approval. If you deny them that approval by remaining in the void, they will eventually break. They will look down or to the side. They will blink rapidly. They will touch their face or cover their mouth. These are the pacifying behaviors we look for. The combination of these two techniques creates a powerful rhythm. You use the mirror to draw them in, to make them feel understood and safe. You check their feet to see if their body agrees with their words. Then, when the moment is right, you drop the void. You pull the rug out from under them. This push and pull creates a state of cognitive dissonance. The subject does not know if you are a friend or a threat. This confusion is where the truth slips out. They are too busy managing their own anxiety to maintain the facade. Mastering the mirror and the void requires patience. It requires you to override your own social programming. You will want to fill the silence. You will want to nod to be polite. You must resist. You must become comfortable with the discomfort of others. You are the observer. You are the wall that reflects and the abyss that reveals. By controlling the flow of validation and silence, you control the conversation. You do not need to force the truth out of anyone. You simply need to create the environment where the lie cannot survive. As we move forward, we will take these observations and apply them to the architecture of influence. We have learned how to see. Next, we will learn how to steer. We will examine how to plant ideas and shape the narrative in the mind of another. But, for now, practice the silence. Watch the feet. And listen to the story. The body tells when the mouth stops moving, the music behind the words. We have spent much time observing the theater of the body. We have watched the feet point toward desires and the eyes narrow. In calculation, we have dissected the silent signals that flash across a face in a fraction of a second. But now we must turn away from the visual. We must close our eyes to the distractions of the physical form and open our ears to the frequency of the mind. Human language is a relatively new invention in the history of our species, but the voice itself is primal. Before we had words to deceive one another, we had sounds to warn, to comfort, and to threaten. The brain processes tone and pitch far faster than it processes syntax or vocabulary. Words are carefully curated. A person can rehearse a script. They can choose their adjectives with the precision of a surgeon and construct sentences that paint a perfect picture of innocence or competence. But the voice acts as a traitor to the will. It is the music behind the words, and it plays the song of the subconscious. To read anyone instantly, you must stop listening to the story they are telling you and start listening to the instrument playing it. You are looking for the dissonance. You are listening for the moment. The violin screeches because the strings are wound too tight. The first element of this auditory analysis is pitch. The mechanics of the human voice are biological. Sound is produced by air passing through the vocal cords. When a person is relaxed, these cords are loose and pliable, allowing for a rich and resonant sound. This is the sound of safety. This is the sound of truth. When a person enters a state of high stress or anxiety or deception, the body engages its survival mechanisms. The muscles tighten, the neck stiffens, the vocal cords stretch, taut like a rubber band pulled to its limit. The result is a subtle shift upward in pitch. It may not be a cartoonish squeak, but it is a thinning of the voice. The resonance disappears. The voice loses its bottom end and becomes flat and hard. If you are in a negotiation and you propose a figure, watch the reaction. If the other person says they are happy with the deal, but their voice climbs half an octave, they are lying to you or to themselves. They are stressed. The tightening of the throat is a physical rejection of the words coming out of the mouth. Contrast this with the drop in pitch. When a person feels absolute authority or dominance, their vocal cords relax completely. They occupy the lower register of their range. This is often why we instinctively trust people with deeper voices. It signals a lack of anxiety. If someone is shouting at you, but their pitch remains low and controlled, they are not losing their temper. They are using anger as a tool. They are in control. If they are shouting and their voice cracks or rises into a screech, they have lost control. They are operating from a place of fear. The second element is cadence. This is the rhythm of speech. Every individual has a baseline rhythm. Some people speak in rapid staccato bursts like a machine gun. Others speak in slow rolling waves. to detect deception or hidden emotion. You must first establish this baseline. You must know their standard tempo. When a person lies, they are engaging in a complex cognitive task. They have to suppress the truth construct of fabrication and monitor your reaction simultaneously. This requires significant brain power. Consequently, the rhythm of their speech often suffers. You might hear a hesitation where there should be none, a slight stumble, a pause that feels just a fraction of a second, too long as their brain searches for the next safe word. However, the opposite is also a sign of danger. A lie that has been rehearsed too many times will sound unnatural. It will flow too smoothly. Real memory is imperfect. When we recall a genuine event, we pause to retrieve details. We correct ourselves. We might say, "It was Tuesday." No, wait. It was Wednesday. This is the messy rhythm of truth. A liar often skips the mess. They recite the story without a single stumble, because they are reading a script in their mind. If the story sounds too polished, it is likely a fabrication. Then we have the speed of delivery. Anxiety acts as an accelerant. When someone is nervous or trying to cover a lie, they often speak faster. They are trying to offload the information as quickly as possible to end the interrogation. They want to get the words out so they can stop lying. It is a verbal sprint. They will pile detail upon detail, hoping that the sheer volume of words will overwhelm your critical thinking. They fear silence, so they fill every second with noise. This brings us to the most powerful tool in your arsenal, the silence itself. In the world of acoustics, silence is not empty space, it is a heavy object. Most people are terrified of silence in a social setting. It makes them feel exposed. It implies judgment. When you ask a question and receive an answer that you suspect is false, simply remain silent. Do not nod. Do not speak. Just look at them and wait. This is the pressure test. A truthful person will look back at you, confused, perhaps asking if you understood them. A liar or a person hiding something will feel the silence as a physical weight. They will feel an irresistible urge to lift that weight. They will start talking again. They will add unnecessary details. They will justify their previous statement. They will negotiate with themselves. By simply holding the silence, you force their internal anxiety to leak out through their voice. You become the void, and they will throw anything into it to avoid the quiet. Consider the volume at which a person speaks. Volume is often a mask for insecurity. The person who speaks the loudest in the room is rarely the one in charge. Loudness is a primitive attempt to claim territory. It is the roar of a creature that feels threatened. A person who is truly confident in their power does not need to shout. They know you will listen. A whisper can be far more intimidating than a scream because it forces you to lean in. It forces you to submit to their volume. Pay attention to sudden changes in volume. If a usually quiet person suddenly becomes loud, they are deflecting. They are using noise to create a barrier. If a usually loud person suddenly becomes quiet and withdraws, they are calculating. They have gone internal. They are assessing a threat or planning a move. We must also listen for the tone of the exhale. The breath is the fuel of the voice. When we are relieved, we sigh. When we are frustrated, we huff. But there is a specific type of exhale that signals resignation. It is the sound of the air leaving the lungs. When a person realizes they have been caught, it is a deflation. It often happens just before a confession or a concession. You must listen to the emphasis on pronouns. A person who is proud of their actions or confident in their statement will use the word I. They will take ownership. I did this. I believe this. A person who is distancing themselves from an action or a lie will often drop the pronoun or switch to passive language. Instead of saying, I broke the vase, they might say, the vase broke. They remove the actor from the sentence. This is linguistic distancing. It is a subtle way for the subconscious to wash its hands of the deed. Finally, listen for the crack in the facade. This is the micro-expression of the voice. It happens in an instant. A slight tremor, a momentary choke, a swallowing sound. These are autonomic responses. The throat is dry because the adrenaline has shut down the salivary glands. The voice shakes because the muscles are trembling with fight or flight energy. These are not things that can be controlled by will. They are biological betrayals. When you combine these auditory signals with the visual cues you have already mastered, you gain a panoramic view of the human mind. You see the feet pointing toward the exit. You see the eyes blocking the light. And now you hear the voice. Tighten and speed up. You hear the pitch rise as the stress mounts. You hear the unnatural smooth rhythm of the rehearsed lie. The picture is complete. You are no longer just listening to what they say. You are analyzing the physics of how they say it. You are hearing the vibration of their nervous system. You are detecting the fear in the frequency. In the next chapter, we will take these skills of observation and listening, and we will turn them outward. We will move from reading the person to influencing them. We will explore how to use the mirror of your own behavior to guide the thoughts of others. We have learned to read the script. Now it is time to learn how to rewrite it. The architecture of vulnerability. You are looking at a structure, not a building of stone and steel, but a construct of personality and defense. Every human being you meet is an architect of their own image. They design a facade to present to the world. They paint it with confidence. They reinforce it with carefully chosen words. But underneath that design lies the raw material of human nature. This is where you find the cracks. This is where the true self resides. To read. Anyone instantly, you must stop looking at the decoration and start examining the load-bearing walls. You must learn to see where the weight of their secrets is pressing down and threatening to collapse the whole illusion. We call this the architecture of vulnerability. When a person feels safe, their body occupies space with a kind of fluid arrogance. They expand. They claim the territory around them. But the moment anxiety strikes, the architecture begins to shrink. It is a withdrawal. It is the physical manifestation of the desire to disappear. You have learned to watch the eyes and the feet. But now you must look at the structural integrity of the entire form. Consider the neck. It is the most vulnerable bridge between the head and the body. In the wild, it is the target for predators. In the boardroom or the living room, it remains the target for stress. When a person feels threatened or insecure, their hand will almost magnetically drift to this area. It is a primal shield. You will see a man adjust his tie knot when he knows he is losing the argument. You will see a woman lightly touch the hollow of her throat when the conversation turns to a subject she fears. This is not a random itch. It is a pacifying behavior. It is the brain screaming for protection. The architecture is shaking, and the hand moves to shore up the defenses. This covers the suprasternal notch, which is the soft depression at the base of the throat. Covering this area is a universal signal of discomfort. It is the body closing the castle gates. Look lower now to the hands. We use our hands to manipulate the world, but they also reveal our command over it. High status and high confidence are displayed when the thumbs are visible. They protrude from pockets. They rest on the desk. But when confidence crumbles, the thumbs disappear. They tuck inside the fist. They hide inside the pockets while the fingers remain out. This is the gravity of insecurity at work. The body makes itself smaller. It retracts its tools of influence. A person telling a lie or feeling. A sudden spike of shame will often hide their hands entirely. They might sit on them or shove them deep into pockets. They are subconsciously concealing the evidence of their anxiety. They are removing their primary means of action from the table. Because they no longer feel capable of action, they feel only the need for defense. Then, there is the turtle effect. This is a subtle shift in the skyline of the body. When we are proud and safe, our necks are long and our shoulders are low. But introduce a threat. Introduce a question that strikes too close to the truth. Watch the shoulders rise. They creep up toward the ears. The head sinks down. The chin tucks in. It is the ancient attempt to disappear inside a shell that we no longer possess. This architectural collapse happens in a fraction of a second. It marks the precise moment. A subject has moved from comfort to distress. If you see the shoulders rise. As they answer a question, you know that the answer carries the weight of a lie or the burden of fear. The body is bracing for an impact that the conscious mind is trying to ignore. Stress creates heat. The architecture of vulnerability includes the ventilation systems of the human machine. When a person is under pressure, the brain demands a cooling mechanism. You will see a man pull his collar away from his neck. He might run his fingers through his hair to lift it off his scalp. This is not just grooming. It is a physiological reaction to the heat of the moment. It signifies that the internal pressure has exceeded the structural capacity to contain it. The facade is intact, but the boiler room is overheating. Identifying this tells you that the subject is struggling to maintain their composure, even if their voice remains steady. We also build barricades when we dislike what we are hearing or seeing. We place objects between ourselves and the source of discomfort. A coffee cup moved to the center of the table, a purse pulled onto the lap, a laptop screen lowered just enough to cut the line of sight. These are the temporary walls, erected in real time. They tell you that the person has closed off. The architecture has shifted from open concept to a fortress state. You have lost them. To bring them back, you must lower the threat level before you can lower the barricade. Eye blocking serves a similar purpose. When we see something we do not like, our first instinct is to cease seeing it. A person might rub their eyes during a negotiation. They might pinch the bridge of their nose, with their eyes closed. They might momentarily cover their face with their hands. They are not tired. They are blocking out the visual input of a disagreeable reality. It is a denial of presence. For that brief second, they are trying to erase you or the situation from their existence. This is a powerful indicator of disagreement or disbelief. It is the shutters slamming closed against a storm. You must also observe the stillness. We often look for movement to detect lies. But the absence of movement is just as telling. When a predator is near, prey freezes to avoid detection. This implies that when a human being is terrified of being caught in a lie or a transgression, they will often become unnaturally still. Their breathing becomes shallow. Their hands stop moving. Their feet lock into place. This is the fight or flight response. Failing to choose a direction and settling on a total system. Freeze. If you ask a question and the person turns into a statue, they are terrified. They are hoping that if they do not move, you will not see the guilt radiating off them. Finally, look at the lean. We lean towards what we desire, and we lean away from what we dislike. This is the tilt of the foundation. If you are speaking to someone and they are leaning back in their chair with their arms crossed, they are distancing themselves from your words. They are creating a buffer zone. If their feet are pointed towards the exit, while their torso faces you, they are in a state of architectural torsion. Their social obligation keeps their face toward you, but their biological desire is twisting their body toward the door. The structure is trying to tear itself apart to escape. Mastering this final layer of observation allows you to walk through the world with a different set of eyes. You no longer hear just the words. You see the structure supporting them. You see the foundations trembling. You see the frantic repairs being made in the shadows. Reading People is not about intuition. It is about engineering. It is the study of pressure and release. It is the analysis of the human structure under the weight of reality. When you combine the direction of the feet with the darting of the eyes and the shielding of the neck, you get a complete blueprint. You see the person not as they wish to be seen, but as they truly are. This is the ultimate power of dark psychology. It is the ability to walk past the guards at the gate and enter the throne room of the mind. You see the vulnerability, you see the truth, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. You now hold the keys to the invisible script. You understand the compass of the subconscious. You have looked through the shutter of the soul and seen the ghost in the smile. You have stared into the mirror and the void and heard the music behind the words. Now you see the architecture of vulnerability in its entirety. The blueprint is yours. Use it with precision. The pressure of silence. Most people believe that communication is defined by what is said. We obsess over the perfect argument, the witty retort, or the logical explanation. We fill the air with noise because we believe that sound equals control. But in the realm of dark psychology, the opposite is true. Power does not reside in the barrage of words. It resides in the vacuum. You create when you choose to say nothing at all. This brings us to the final and perhaps most lethal instrument in your arsenal. We call this the pressure of silence. Silence is not passive. It is an active, heavy force. It is a weight that you place upon the shoulders of another person. Human beings are social animals, wired by evolution to seek connection and consensus. We are terrified of rejection. In the primal history of our species, being cast out of the tribe meant death. Therefore, a lapse in conversation triggers a deep, ancient alarm system in the brain. It signals a breach in the social contract. It implies judgment. It implies that the answer given was insufficient, or that a threat is looming. When you learn to harness this pressure, you stop being a participant in the conversation and become the architect of it. You create a void that the other person feels a desperate, almost biological compulsion to fill. And it is in that frantic attempt to fill the silence that they reveal the truth they intended to hide. Let us set the scene. You have asked a difficult question. The subject has given you a rehearsed answer. It is a smooth lie, polished and ready. An amateur would immediately follow up with another question, attacking the logic of the lie. But you are not an amateur. You simply nod, maintain steady eye contact, and remain silent. You wait. This is the moment where the psychology of the pause begins to dismantle their defenses. Count to 4 in your head. It will feel like an eternity. For the person across from you, those 4 seconds are agonizing. Their brain screams that the interaction has failed. They assume you have seen through the lie. They assume you know something they do not. The silence acts as a mirror, reflecting their own guilt and anxiety. Back at them. Now you must observe. You are looking for the leakage that occurs when the pressure builds. we return to the principles. We have discussed specifically the behavior of the feet and the hands. Watch their feet. As the silence stretches, past the 3-second mark, the conscious mind loses control of the extremities. If they are sitting, you may see a sudden locking of the ankles. This is the restraint reflex, the body freezing in response to a predator. Or perhaps you see the opposite. The feet may shift, turning away from you and pointing toward the exit. This is the flight response. They want to leave the situation, and their feet are already making the motion to run. If they are standing, look for a repetitive shifting of weight. They are literally unsettled. The ground beneath them feels unstable because you have removed the stability of conversation. Move your gaze upward. How do they handle the lack of auditory feedback? We often use filler words and small nods to encourage people to keep talking. When you withhold these, you starve them of validation. Watch their hands. Under the weight of silence, the hands will seek to pacify the nervous system. You will see them reach for the neck. This is a classic comfort cue. They might touch the suprasternal notch, the hollow at the base of the throat. This is a highly vulnerable area, and covering it is an instinctual act of self-protection. They might rub their thighs, wring their hands, or adjust a piece of clothing that does not need adjusting. These are displacement activities, the energy of their anxiety needs a physical outlet, and since they cannot run, they fidget. Then, observe the eyes. We discussed the shudder of the soul, and here it becomes critical. In a normal conversation, eye contact breaks and reconnects naturally. But under the pressure of a strategic pause, the pattern changes. If they are lying, they may break eye contact abruptly, looking down or to the side, unable to withstand the scrutiny. This is shame or fear. Conversely, they might engage in overcompensation. They might lock eyes with you, staring too intensely, refusing to blink. This is a fight response. They are trying to dominate you, to force you to break the silence first. It is an act of aggression born from panic. But the most telling reaction to the pressure of silence is the verbal spill. This is the moment. The dam breaks. The subject cannot tolerate the ambiguity of the quiet. They need to resolve the tension. So, they speak again. And this is crucial. They will add to their story without you asking. A truth teller states the facts and is comfortable waiting. If you stay silent with an innocent person, they will simply look at you, perhaps confused, and ask what you are thinking. They are not afraid of the void because they have nothing to hide in it. A liar, however, cannot sit in the quiet. They will start to elaborate. They will offer unprompted justifications. They might say things like, "Well, that is just how I remember it," or, "To be honest with you." They will add unnecessary details to convince you. They are negotiating with your silence. Every word they speak after the initial answer is a concession. They are bidding against themselves. They are trying to buy your approval with information. Listen to the tone of this secondary explanation. We analyzed the music behind the words earlier. Now, hear how the melody changes. The pitch often rises at the end of sentences, turning statements into questions. They are seeking confirmation. They are asking, "Do you believe me now?" The rhythm becomes erratic. They might stumble, speak too quickly, or repeat phrases. The smooth rehearsal of the initial lie is gone, replaced by the chaotic improvisation of a mind in panic. You must remain disciplined. The urge to speak will be strong in you as well. It is uncomfortable to sit in judgment. It is uncomfortable to hold the tension. You must override your own social conditioning. You must become comfortable with the awkwardness. Let the silence hang in the air like smoke. Let it fill every corner of the room. If they ask you why you are quiet, do not defend yourself. Do not explain. Simply offer a non-committal shrug or a slight tilt of the head, and wait. This ambiguity is terrifying to a manipulator. They thrive on conflict, on the back and forth of argument. They cannot fight a shadow. By refusing to engage, you deny them the battlefield. They know how to navigate. You force them to fight themselves. As you master this, you will realize that silence is the ultimate truth serum. It strips away the polished veneer of social niceties. It bypasses the intellectual defenses and speaks directly to the mammalian brain. It creates a pressure cooker where the only release valve is the truth. Notice the timing of their next breath. When someone is holding a secret, they often hold their breath or breathe shallowly during the silence. When they finally decide to speak, you might hear a sharp intake of air or a long shuddering exhale. This is the physiological reset. They are preparing to dive into the deep water of confession or a more complex fabrication. If the silence stretches too long and they do not crack, do not panic. The silence has still served its purpose. It has established your dominance. It has shown that you are not easily swayed, that you are not desperate for their approval, and that you are meticulously analyzing their behavior. You have shifted the power dynamic permanently in your favor, even if they do not confess. In that moment, they will leave the interaction shaken. They know you are watching. They know you are listening to what they do not say. In the end, reading anyone instantly is not about having a psychic intuition. It is about observation and control. It is about understanding the architecture of the human mind and knowing which pillars to lean on. The pressure of silence knocks out the pillar of social comfort. It leaves the subject exposed, vulnerable, and desperate to regain solid ground. So, the next time you need to know the truth, do not raise your voice. Do not pound the table. Do not formulate a complex trap of logic. Simply ask your question, listen to the answer, and then do absolutely nothing. Let the silence do the work for you. Watch the feet, watch the hands, watch the eyes, and wait for the ghost in the machine to reveal itself. The burden of sight. You have reached the final page of this study, and the invisible script is no longer invisible to you. The tools we have discussed are not magic tricks, but sharp instruments of observation. You now know how to track the subconscious compass of the feet and catch the fleeting shudder of the eyelids before a mask slips back into place. You can hear the subtle dissonance in a tone that betrays a lie. However, this clarity brings a distinct weight. This is the burden of sight. Once you learn to read the architecture of vulnerability, you cannot simply turn it off. You will see the insecurity behind a loud boast and the frantic fear hidden within a polite laugh. You are not a superior being looking down on others, but a person who has finally decided to pay attention to reality. The goal is not to manipulate these signals, but to navigate your environment with absolute precision. Walk into the world with this sharpened vision. Observe the quiet signals everyone else ignores, and remember that the deepest truths are often spoken without a single word. The story is right there in front of you, waiting to be read.